Nothing right now. All right, we are live from Doak Campbell Stadium, a very excited Doak Campbell Stadium, and you can see the lights behind me, but you cannot see the people on the field, and about half the field is still full of FSU fans after FSU knocks off Florida 45-38 to finish the season on a 5-game winning streak, win 9 games for the first time since 2016. Guys, there's a ton to talk about, but listen, the Florida Gators came into Tallahassee running down the dream of beating the hottest team in all of college football. But at the end of the day, FSU did not back down, and it started with a third quarter comeback. And listen, this game was equal first, second, and fourth quarters, but the difference in this ball game was the third quarter. And we'll talk about all that because I want to talk to Mark about adjustments. But my name is Pat Burnham. I'm with Aria Masudi and former FSU offensive lineman Mark Salva. And if I'm talking a little loud, because I have to. There's music playing, there's a band playing, cheerleaders cheering, and this is the wildest I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen fans rush Doak Campbell Stadium before. So, Mark, we'll start with you, man. You're the former player. You beat the Gators before. Tell us what you thought about this ball game.
Man, gutty win, right? So proud of these guys. We've had it easy the last 4 weeks, and so we kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit. But, look, I knew we were going to score points. And, I got to give credit to the defense, for the last 4 weeks. We played the last 4 weeks. But Florida came out and really had a scheme, really did some things that put us in some weird situations and got some points early. But I'm going to tell you, the story of this game is the third quarter, putting the game in Jordan Travis's hands. And because Florida was not going to let us run the ball, they were obviously had worked on it, were determined to stop the run. And, I had a note here halfway through the second quarter, early in the second quarter, that we got to throw to set up the run because they're not going to let us run it. And, man, putting the game in Jordan Travis's hands was the answer. And then, the adjustments coming out of halftime, coming out of the tunnel, blitzing, especially those first 2 drives where they, after we scored our second touchdown of the quarter to go for 17 points in the quarter, they put a stat up that they had 1 yard in the quarter. It was 4 minutes left or 2 minutes left in the quarter. So the defense came out, did what they had to do to build the cushion in the lead, and then just gutty performance there towards the end to bring it home.
Yeah, all right. You're in Mexico with covering soccer, basketball. What are you covering?
Florida State women's basketball's in the Cancun Challenge. But don't worry, Pat. We were watching. We were all tuned in, locked in. 7:30. We had an appointment for some Noles and some Gators. Como estás, by the way. Hola, all of that good stuff. And what is it? Hasta la vista, Florida. Get out of here. Get out of here, Gators. Take that 3-game win streak and go home. Come on now. I'm fired up, Pat. I'm fired up.
You should be. And,
the Mexican bartenders and the Mexican room attendants going crazy learning American college football. That's a big win for the Noles.
I think
state champs, baby.
You might need to have a few margaritas once we're done here.
I've had plenty of them today. I promise you that.
It was crazy. It wasn't always pretty, as these games sometimes aren't very pretty. But at the end of the day, Florida State found a way to hold on. Mark, listen, if you love rushing the football, you got to love this game. These teams combined for 90 total runs for 489 yards, and it's the seventh consecutive time Florida State's run for 200 yards, probably against one of the better, more athletic defense it's faced. Listen, there were sloppiness all around. There were drops by Florida State, errant passes, but as you said, Jordan Travis and his legs, he was remarkable tonight.
Yeah, he was. Listen, and he made a lot of good throws, and there were some drops, but he came up big when he really needed to. Man, those scrambles. I mean, first thing came to mind was Charlie Ward. Those were Charlie Ward-like runs and scrambles, just the escaping, and the one where he reversed out to away from our bench. And ran down the sideline. I mean, that was incredible. And the one where he dodged the blitz from number 51 and then dodged 3 guys. I mean, and went down our sideline. I mean, those were incredible plays. And finding a way to win. It's just the guts of this team. I just can't. I'm just so proud of them. I'm just so proud to be a Seminole today. Just to to the way those guys fought and clawed and scratched and fought. It's just it was a great thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, we talked all year long, and Ari, you could certainly talk about this too. We've seen nothing but resolve from this football team from the outset of the season. You go down 24-21 at halftime, come back out of the half. We've heard people complain about adjustments, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, a lot this year because there was a tendency to give up some touchdowns to start the third quarter for opposing teams. But listen, FSU's defense figured it out, 3 and outs to start the third quarter. Conversely, FSU scored on its first 3 drives in the second half. Mark, what kind of adjustments did you see on both sides of the ball for Florida State, but certainly on defense where they played much better in that crucial quarter?
Yeah, so, at first, at the beginning of the game, Florida obviously had a plan coming in. They would line up one way, like in trips. They'd shift to trips on the other side, then they motion guy across, had our guys moving, trying to communicate, and they caught us a couple of times. And then, caught us on the double move for Pearsall's first touchdown, right? And then, some of those runs, they just did a good job of scheming us and getting us out of our deal. And then, so that conversely, that made us play a lot of base defense. And when we started to have to do that, what they were doing was running straight zone. But it was basically what they were doing was they're double teaming our 2 inside guys and knocking them off the ball and setting the edge. And so they're getting seams that way. And then, the thing that kind of scared me going into the game was Richardson and his big arm, and that came to fruition. He hit 3 big throws. Once after the half, right, came out of the half, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we got to move the front. We got to show some pressure. We got to show some different things defensively because we're not presenting any problems to them. And sure enough, coming out of halftime, the first series we blitzed, I think, all 3 plays and got them off the field. And I think 2 out of the 3 in the next series and got them off the field. So, 2 3 and outs. So great adjustment by Coach Fuller and the defensive staff, and execution by the guys to do that. On the offensive side, what I saw was they were not going to let us run the ball. They had our runs pretty coached up pretty well. And so they really crowded the line of scrimmage. And one thing I thought we could do better was run off the edges a little better. But, there were some times where we didn't quite get the edge on a couple runs. And those were some of those, 1 or 2 yard runs. But, that happens at times. But to me, again, the note I wrote down was we're going to have to throw to loosen this defense up. And sure enough, coming out of halftime, we were predominantly throwing the ball. Travis was using his legs from the passing game, right? So it wasn't like they were designed runs so much as he was dropping back to pass, and then they were blitzing, they were bringing pressure, and he would dodge the pressure, and he was making plays off the passing game with his legs. And so to me, that's what we needed to do to loosen them up. And then, of course, we were able to, that last drive, the return of the counter, right? That last touchdown were 2 straight counters to Trey Benson, and which we didn't run it that much through the course of the game. And I was, in my mind, I'm there's the counter. Sure enough, they had loosened up, and we were able to get that last touchdown. So, look, our offense, we're going to hit on something. We can do so much on offense that we're going to hit on something. And I knew we were going to score points. I think the thing that took me by surprise was, number one, how well Richardson played early.
Yep.
And the fact that, look, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, now I know why they lost the Vanderbilt game, because they probably have been practicing this stuff for weeks, all these formations, all these shifts, all these motions. But, it all came out in the wash, and, we were able to pull out the win.
Well,
Pat,
I was going to ask you, just give me your thoughts on what you saw in the second half versus the first half.
No, I think, too, Mark nailed it in terms of we finally made Richardson uncomfortable. It felt like in the first half the Noles weren't – he's a good player, right? And he's got a lot of talent, and it wasn't like he was hitting seam throws or impressive shots. He was hitting 1v1s. And eventually, Florida State got to him. I also thought we didn't do this consistently in the second half because Florida and ETN got going again. But we did a nice job, at least in that third quarter, of forcing 3rd and longs. It felt like Florida wasn't having these 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, to which they could ultimately then, you have to respect Richardson's legs, ETN on a draw play. FSU did a much better job, and you guys both touched on it, right? That third quarter was so important for Florida State to kind of retake the momentum back in the game against Florida, and give the Gators credit. Like, they kept fighting too. And we can talk about, if we want, Pat, the way that Florida came back, and then FSU had to respond and take another knockout. It's like a boxing match. You took a hit, you applied a couple back, and then you kind of thought maybe your opponent would go down, and he didn't, right? They didn't go down. And so for FSU to respond to that, I thought was as impressive, because I don't know that we have seen that time and time again this season, right? Mark and I were talking, off camera before we got on, about FSU hadn't been really tested for about over a month now, and they had to be tested by a good football team. I'm very proud of that football team. The defense especially stepped up in moments, and then you guys nailed it. Jordan Travis, guys, that's he's a difference maker, folks. Like, that's a big time player, and I think we got to stop that nonsense about how Jordan Travis. There seems to still be a little bit of disrespect about how he can't impact the football game against good competition. He did a good job tonight. I got to give him all the credit in the world.
He is one of the most dynamic playmakers in the ACC, if not all of college football. And when he could not make it happen with his arm, that was not all his fault. He certainly made it happen with his legs. And to your point, Ari, the first half, Florida's average third down yardage was under 5 yards. For the game, it ended up being 8.3. And Mark, Florida, I guess you could say, if you wanted to look at the first half, Florida dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Florida State did not have a stop behind the line of scrimmage in the first half, but in the second half, it was a totally different story. They got more pressure on Richardson, ended up with a sack, several tackles behind the line. Just talk about the lines answering the bell in the second half.
Yeah, well, Florida did a good job of scheming numbers advantages. And that kind of restricted our ability to get tackles for loss. They had a lot of tight end wings and cluster sets that were close to the tackle. So there a lot of constricted sets, a lot of edges that had wings and stuff on them. So it was hard to get that in, and then they just squeeze block. They just kind of made sure they locked down the inside. And with those edges, so it was hard to get people in the backfield. I was a little disappointed, that we weren't able to get a lot of pressure on them unless we brought numbers. But that's their game, right? They're committed to running the football, and look, they really put our second level and our DBs in conflict with the play action pass early. That's where they're getting a lot of success. So until we kind of settled down with all the shifts and motions and the eye candy that the team was seeing. Then we were able to, once we got a beat on it, then we were able to bring numbers and bring some blitzes and bring guys closer to the box. And that's what it looked like to me. I'm going to rewatch it and see, but that's kind of the feel I got during the course of the game. So offensively, the same kind of thing. They were really committed to numbers, in the box. And that's why I was saying we had to throw it to loosen them up. And then we were able to do that too.
Well, and they certainly did that. And listen, it was also what we thought one of the keys to the game would be FSU finding success in the big play offense. Florida came in giving up 7 plays, pass or run of over 10 yards. Florida State, 19 plays of over 10 yards tonight. 9 passes that went for 232 out of the 276. 10 runs that went for 176 out the 227. So yes, Florida State's big play offense. We've heard Mike Norvell talk about that time and time again since he's been here. And even on the last drive by the offense, last score by the offense, all the big three showed up: Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, and Johnny Wilson. Listen, I don't even know where to go to next. All right, I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should just keep going with that statement, because Mark, you can just touch on this right after me, but it felt like the receivers had an up and down evening. A lot of drops early, but they made plays when they had to, right? Portier making the big catch on a touchdown coming across the end zone, staying with Travis on a play that was designed to roll right. Wilson, who had, I thought, one of the more disappointing nights of the season for as a quality and caliber of player that he is, makes the big catch for you. Clearly wasn't 100% at all in that football game. Not quite sure when he took the hit that kind of dinged him up a little bit, but he fights through. And then, you had Micah Pittman, who I thought blocked his ass off all night long. Again, made some big catches on third downs when you had to have it. late in that third and in that fourth quarter. And guys, again, this team offensively, we have talked about it too, right? Like, we couldn't only be reliant on the big plays all season long. Explosive plays can't be the only form of offense, but they can be a nice chunk of it when you're also becoming more efficient. And FSU was number one in the country in explosive plays. Seeing that on the broadcast there tonight. Mark, this team continues to be able to impress folks offensively, defensively, but especially offensively. Mike Norvell, I mean, he's proven, man, he's an offensive genius, and he has been for a long time.
It is amazing when you consider the amount of chunk plays that we get during the course of a game. And I've said it the last several weeks now, it's just the inventory of plays that we have, the way he can dial up these chunks just by, varying personnel and formations but in having Jordan Travis be able to process all that and hit the right guy time and time again and dialing up on the runs, we'll go 1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yard, 2 yard or stall or something. Then he comes back and he's able to hit on something and we get these big old chunk runs and chunk plays. I mean, it's incredible. You're right though. Look, it's a team effort. I want to go back and talk about this. Jordan hit Pokey on that pass early in the game and he fumbled it, right? That first third down. And then next series on Benson's big run, who the heck was out there busting his tail and sprung him for that big run? It was Pokey blocking his tail off. That to me, I just love that. I love that as a coach, as a former coach. That fires me up. And we've gotten that all year from the receivers. Those guys work their tail off blocking, so let's not forget the tight ends. Cam McDonald with some big plays in the passing game. Again, here's another example of dialing up something that the one big run on the tight end delay that Cameron had. I mean, how long did Norvell keep that in his back pocket? That was middle of the third quarter, right? I mean, I don't know how long I would have held on to that one. Right. I'd want to hit that one. That's what I'm saying. We got so many ways to get to you that play didn't even come out until the third quarter. Right. So it's just really as impressive.
Well, and listen, we're talking about another receiver who steps up and takes the lead role. Kentron Portier, led the team with 3 receptions. I don't know if he's had 3 receptions in the last 3 ball games, but he steps up, 3 receptions for 37 yards, a touchdown. He was targeted 5 times. Trey Benson had 51 yards receiving. Johnny Wilson, 46, and he could have had a lot more, as Ari's mentioned. Targeted 9 times, had 2 catches. Cameron McDonald, 44 yards. Malik McClain, 44 yards. I mean, listen, these guys, and we've seen Lawrence Toafili has really been a weapon the last 3 or 4, about 5 or 6 weeks, really. He had a limited role, but we saw again. His role was kind of filled by Jordan Travis tonight, right? Jordan, 15 rushes, 83 yards. Trey Benson, 20 rushes, 111 yards. It is just amazing how there's a new playmaker popping up every week in this offense.
Yeah, incredible. And one other thing I wanted to talk about too was the defense on that goal line series. That was reminiscent of the 93 Kansas goal line stand. I was hoping we'd stop him, right? I mean, I don't know how many plays they had inside the 5, inside the 10, but it was a bunch.
I believe it was at least 7. At one point, it was 7, Mark. I don't know how far above and beyond it went beyond that, but I still don't think he was in either. I don't think he was either. I'll watch the replay. I did not think he was in. I think they got gifted a touchdown. Listen, we got to see some of the replay video.
Dude called it from all the other side of the field. I was like, that is not your call.
Sure. 78 was in his way. He was the camera. You see the camera angle has the same angle as the ref, and 78 was sitting right in the way there, right?
And then the end of the game, pass interference guy. I mean, Brandon, I completely agree with you.
100%.
I about jumped off the second floor of this hotel when they called pass interference. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Pat, what did it look like from the press box?
Oh, you're talking about the one on the other side of the field?
4th and 18.
The 4th and 18 right at the end, Pat.
Yeah. Listen, it was tick-tacky. I think at that point in the game, you let them play. You could say
here's what you don't do. You don't bail out a team by giving them a pass interference on a play where the guy would have been 8 yards short of a first down to begin with, even if he did catch the ball. I mean, that's just bailing them out on 4th and 18. That's rewarding especially they'll play that close, So, but look, honestly, we might have got a little bit of a makeup call because Jimmy Robinson on that last play blitzed and he swiped and he did get face mask.
That was face mask. You're right. But you know what? My feelings weren't hurt.
I think that's a makeup call.
We deserve. It had to have been.
I think it was a makeup call.
They were SEC officials. So.
Can we get rid of that rule, by the way, where the opposing conference, the visiting team's conference, gets to officiate? I don't like that. I've never liked it.
I thought it was pretty fair. I thought they were. I didn't feel like we got jobbed other than that pass interference call, but I thought the rest of the time it was pretty even because they didn't call a whole lot of holdings. Mostly in the secondary. The holdings were in the secondary. They did call one big one on them. They had gotten a big run, and they called holding on them. So, I thought they did okay, personally.
Guys, it's about an hour after the game, and the field has finally cleared. Ari, listen, I was not here for the 31-31 game in the 1994. I was driving back from the Clemson, South Carolina game that year to attend a post-game party, which turned out to be pretty good that night. I don't know if it's going to be better than the one Tallahassee's going to have tonight. But in your time, have you ever seen Florida State fans rush the field?
No, because Florida State's program usually is beating the heck out of people as I was growing up. But by the way, 1994, I'm not trying to make y'all feel old. I think when that Thanksgiving, when that football game was probably played around that time, I was like 8 months old. I was born in January. I wasn't going to say I wasn't born yet because that's not true.
Well,
I was born, but
I think your dad might have had a VHS copy for you to watch somewhere as you were growing up.
We've seen it. Oh, trust me, I've seen it many times. No, man, that says I don't know when the last time Florida State rush the field, but I think that's a good segue, Pat and Mark, into what this season means, because those fans rush the field because there hasn't been this level of excitement around FSU football in a while, and it's been frustrating, right? Sully, you played. I know that frustration level sits deeper in your heart than any fan could possibly say. Pat, your dad coached at Florida State. I know that pain has sat in there, and you guys are frustrated watching what had happened to FSU. So let me ask you both this, as two guys that have stake in the game and have been there and done that. How does this feel for FSU as a fan, as a coverage, 9-3? Did you see it coming? What are the emotions?
Mark, you want to start or you want me to start?
You go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, did I see if I'm being totally honest, did I see 9-3 coming? No, I had FSU at 7-5, and I said great season would be 8-4. So they exceeded my expectations. I will say this: when we saw this team, and we've mentioned this several times, when we got to practice, the first couple of days at practice, particularly after they got into full pads and start getting after a little bit, you could sense something different about this team. Mark and I have talked about this. When you're around somebody, an organization, people in the organization, people around your house, you pick up on certain things, energy and vibes or whatever you want to call it. And there was a confidence in this team. And I've told Mark before, Mike is a very focused, disciplined, energetic guy, confident guy. And that's kind of what we've seen from his football team this year. As a kid growing up around this program, being in the Moore Center all the time, Florida State's obviously a program that I have followed very closely over the course of my lifetime since I left Tallahassee. When I moved back, they were national champions. Certainly soon after that, they kind of fell off the side of the earth. And as an alumni, you're so proud of your university. You're so proud of these kids, these coaches. You know how hard they've worked. Not a lot of people expected a whole lot from them based off the last 4 or 5 years, but they had a plan. The kids carried out that plan. And listen, we thought this was going to be a fun football team to watch this year coming in. We thought it was going to be competitive. We just didn't know how competitive it was. And it's been dominant at times. It was dominant in the third quarter in this game against a very energetic, fired up Florida football team. And just to be back to where Florida State is, we're talking, and I don't know if it's going to work out. I've heard people talk about the Orange Bowl, but just the fact that we're sitting here talking about some things that could happen to get to the Orange Bowl or get to the Cotton Bowl. As an alumni, I'm proud. As a guy that knows somebody on the staff very well, I'm so happy for that football team. And it's just been such a fun season to cover. And the great news, guys, we got one more game to go.
Yeah. My senior year was 1987, right? And so that was the start of the dynasty. We, 12-1, number 2 in the country. And then after that, I coached until 93 and won our first national championship. And so the pride that I have as an alumnus, as a player and a coach, is obviously, deep seated in me. And, obviously I went and coached other places and haven't been plugged into it as much. But to see how far down it went was just so frustrating, because you knew what this place is and how special it is. And, when Mike came on and, we had that COVID year and it was really frustrating, but the things he was saying, the things he was preaching, because look, during the darkest times, after Jimbo left, and then when during the Taggart years, all we wanted was for this team to fight, to play hard, right? To show that they cared. And, when Mike came on, and the roster started to turn over, you started to see that. And then, 0-4 last year, and then, turning around and fighting through that, then you really started to see it. And he started to, that pride started to come back again and say, these guys really do care. And the energy that Mike brings, and look, you could see it. He's smart. He's got tons of energy. And that's what it takes when you were where we were, right? That's not easy to just change a culture and elevate it from the depths that we were at the time. And so you could see it coming, and you just hoped that all this work and effort that they put in was going to yield results. Did I think we'd win 9 games? Heck no. I said I'd be happy with 7-5. You right?
Oh, yeah. We said before 7-5 would be such a dramatic turnaround from where they've been, and
win one of the rivalry games. Dude,
yes.
we're state champs, man. We're state champs. We hadn't said that I don't know how long.
Well, state champs and the best team in the state of Florida, regardless of who you're talking about now. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right,
no
listen. I've watched football games with you for the last 4 years. I know that you have a roller coaster of emotions too in any one given game. Just talk about how excited you are about what you saw from this team.
Yeah, I mean, guys, when I grew up in Tallahassee, I would say accurately I could start remembering football, Florida State football, and really being into it probably about 2002, right? So right after that first wave of the Bowden dynasty started to kind of dip from 2002 on, I saw kind of the foundations fall apart, and we got into Jimbo. And once we became who we became under Jimbo Fisher, I think I took it for granted just how hard winning is and how hard it is to be an elite program. And I think it got frustrating, right? For a lot of fans my age. I'm 28 years old, and I'm sure a lot of my friends, we're texting in group messages right now in that age group of 25 to 35. We took it for granted, right? We hadn't seen a struggle like that before from 2017 to really this season. And I think finally we're starting to see why winning is hard and why it's so sweet. Mike Norvell's doing it the right way, guys. Pat, he's done it the right way. He gets kids who buy in. Knowles are hitting on the transfer portal, I think, at a higher rate than just about anybody in the country in terms of guys who come in and are the right fit. Kudos to the staff for that, of finding cultural. And I think this team's likable, guys. Like, this program's likable. You want to root for it. Even with Jimbo, when we were winning, there were times where you're like explaining to your friends, you're like, yeah, I know he's probably not the best kid on the planet, and I'm defending him because we're winning titles and I got to do. But these kids, these are good kids. They're out in the community. They're good role models, and they win football games the right way. They play the game the right way. So, Pat, I'm ecstatic. It's just the beginning, in my opinion.
And let me tell you what, guys, there were a lot of big-time prospects here this weekend, 23 kids, 24 kids. I know they had the linebacker from Lincoln High School committed to Georgia here. I don't think that kid's been over here very much. It's gotten the attention of the kids in the state, around the Southeast. And I'm going to tell you what, I think if I'm correct, there's 3 kids on official visits here this weekend. There's all kind of kids on unofficial visits. What they just witnessed after this game will have to leave an impression, Mark. There's no doubt when listen, I came in this room before we started and just sat here and watched. And it was so much fun. The band was playing. They had the the chop going, everybody on that field. And if you're a recruit, you would have to leave here fired up out of your mind tonight or on Sunday if you're here for an official visit. And now, listen, the great thing about this, Mark, and you know this, and so do you, Art, this coaching staff will hit the recruiting trail Monday, more than likely. They may do some Monday homes tomorrow. I would if I were them. Getting some of these kids home for that home visit with December 21st quickly approaching. But Mark, this could be a game changer, not only for this recruiting weekend, but for how FSU was viewed by recruits nationally. It was a national game, the biggest game of the day, especially in the Southeast. Just talk a little bit about how that kind of atmosphere after a win like this can impact recruits.
Yeah, on our tailgate show, Fish told the story about Timmy Jernigan, right? When he came on his official visit, or he was here for a game against Florida, and we won big. And he was a lean to Florida at the night. Everybody thought he was going to Florida, but he was in the locker room during that celebration, and that turned him, and he ended up choosing Florida State, which we know well. I mean, that's a great example of how, when you have good things going on in your program and you see it firsthand, and you look, you can't fool kids. You talk to kids on a phone, you go visit them, and you can do a sell job on them. But when they are in your place in a time like this, and they see the relationship the coaches have with the players, and your players are your best recruiters. When these players, when these recruits get around our players, I'd be shocked if they didn't hear anything but great things and positive things about how this coaching staff takes care of them, how they push them, how they make them better, and the results are on the field. And look, kids want to be a part of that. Kids want discipline. They want to be pushed. They want to go to a place where their skills can be highlighted, and we were the only game on TV tonight, right? And everybody watched that game and watched how much fun it is, and watch that spear go into the ground, right? I mean, that to me is a great sell job. And now the coaches can go on the road in a position of power and walk into every high school in the state of Florida and say, we are the state champions. And that goes a long way, brother. I promise you.
Yeah, it does. And listen, there were fireworks on the field. There were fireworks after the game. I don't know if they shoot them off after every game, but that was quite the display after tonight's game. I don't know whether I just get into a zone and don't witness it or watch it, but I'm going to tell you what, man, this place was fun. And listen, I cannot believe this. As San Antonio Noel Lee talks about, as just said on our comments section, we're about to go out there. Florida State's about to pursue its 10th win of the season. Aria, I think you're probably a little bit more. Mark and I have the calluses for being in the business, so we're a little bit more conservative with our picks. You're a little bit more positive when it comes to things like that. But did you think that we would be sitting here at the end of November talking about Florida State going to a bowl for a 10th win of the season?
No, I think I was trying to kind of temper that positivity and be more like you guys and try and have a little bit of a media cap on. And I got to tell you, I thought, my prediction when we did our Osceola preseason ones, I said 8-4. So yeah. I'm about one game off, but even then, to me, that felt optimistic. I felt like I was tapping in to my heart to pick 8-4. So 9-3. 100%. Yeah, 9-3 is amazing, guys. I mean, this is a testament to a 5-game win streak. Florida State started to beat opponents that they should beat, right? The way the schedule played out, and I remember a conversation back on Seminole Sidelines, which I'm going to plug it real quick. You can watch Sunday, 6 o'clock. Charlie Ward will be joining us for Seminole Sidelines with Mark Salva, Pat Burnham, and I'll be back in the United States by Sunday, so I'll be in studio with you, Pat. But we talked about it. I think it was the bye week episode or right before the bye in that time period, and we talked about this schedule is shaping up for FSU to potentially win 4 or 5 games, and that winning out was not a ridiculous statement if things went correctly. So kudos to this team to be able to do that. And I guess I want to throw it back to both of you. What did you guys see from this team over the last 5 games of the year that allowed them to go undefeated after that bye week? And now we're talking about, we said it wasn't ridiculous to win 9 games this year. It's not ridiculous that FSU could be in a New Year's 6 bowl game if some things break their way too.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting Saturday. But listen, I think the thing that stands out to me, just they were consistent, right? And they kept on coming. They kept on coming. It did not matter. When they went against a lesser opponent, they were supposed to beat. They beat them soundly. We saw that in every game in the second half of the season, with the exception of this one, right? We saw, even if you go back before that, the games that they lost. Listen, even when they got down, they fought to come back. And to me, it's the thing that has resonated with me all season about this team has just been resolve. If I had to use one word, it would be resolve.
Yeah, I think for me, I think what was really evident to me and what I kind of saw at the end of the Clemson game, I saw a tired football team, and not just physically. I think mentally. I think it was, it's been a long journey, even going back to being 0-4 last year, and then fighting through that, and then going through the off season and all the things we had to do to prepare for this year, and then winning that LSU game. Winning those first 4 games, I think just mentally, I think they were tired. And I think that off week was such a huge thing for us, just to step away and reset and reboot and refocus and get healthy and come out and make a big run. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, you're running sprints. Coach, just let me catch my breath, right? And I can go extra hard for the next 5, and that's exactly what happened. And to me, I thought that bye week was so timely for us to hit the run that we hit, and started off with Georgia Tech and then beating Miami like we did. That gave us so much confidence. This team was confident. This team knew how to win, and learned how to step on people's throats during that stretch, and prepared us for this moment here. I think early in the game, it was a different caliber that we played, especially up, on the lines of scrimmage, and it took us a minute, right? But we had it in us, and I knew we did, because I knew physically we could hang with anybody, and the coaches figured it out too. And that, to me, I mean, I can go on and on and on.
Well, yes, and I'll give you that too, Mark. We talked about just the way these kids play. Look, we didn't see it every play, every game, but certainly over the last 4 seasons, just the energy and effort these kids play with. That's been fun to watch. And listen, I got to say this. I always tell you guys how I hate Miami worse than I hate Florida. But it's been a long time since I've been to games before a game and actually stood around and talked to people. As I was coming into the stadium today, I just happened to stop by a friend's tailgate to say hello. It was a split tailgate, meaning there were some Gators and some Seminoles there. It was a Seminole tailgate. And I ran into one of those most obnoxious Florida fans I've ever been around in my life. And I am just so happy that what I told that guy at the tailgate as I'm walking into the stadium was going to happen. Florida State was too much for Florida to handle. They had too many big plays in their offense, and Florida's defense was going to give up too many. And that's exactly what the hell happened. And I was going to be a lot nicer about this win had I not run into that guy. He has renewed.
I think it's more personal for all of us, because there's not as many Miami fans around. There's a heck of a lot of Gator fans around. And, heck, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I got a Gator flag flying 2 doors down from me, And so, yeah, it's a little more personal as far as that goes, for sure. But
now, I got to ask you this. You were supposed to come on with a victory cigar. What happened to your victory cigar?
Yeah, you know what? I smoked them. I smoked them today. I was sitting out there with my son who was here for Thanksgiving, and I hadn't spoken, and I ran out of cigars. So,
well, I think what both of you need to get, Mark. All right, you need to go have a shot of tequila or a margarita. Mark, I think you've earned a nice glass of bourbon, or whatever the drink of your choice is. And I know I'm going to have one tonight, and I am probably not. I think it's going to be a very festive at my family's house tonight. I think that'll be a good place to be. And of course, listen. And, of course, it was on top of that, they honored Marvin Jones today, going into the College Football Hall of Fame. So it was an unbelievable day for Florida State, boys.
It really was, man. Oh, man. Guys, I'm so happy. I mean, I can't even tell you. Miami beating Florida. This is all about it. If you want to read about it, by the way, best coverage out there for FSU athletics, theosceola.com. And Jerry Cutts will be very proud of me for plugging this 1-year Osceola subscription for just $22 for the whole year. It's that holiday time. Let's celebrate a 9-win season. Christmas and Hanukkah right around the corner. Holiday time. Promo code Rivals22 will have you set for a full year.
That's a great bargain. They get this on top of it for free. I mean,
they really do.
They have to pay for first impressions.
That's right.
It's hard to beat this kind of entertainment.
Yep. And then let's plug Seminole Sidelines on Sunday with Charlie Ward. You'll get all three of us back, including a former Heisman Trophy quarterback winner. He's on the Heisman house now. How about it? Charlie Ward, actor. Charlie Ward.
He had a new commercial today too. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it. I was here. I didn't get a chance to see it.
He was sitting in the pool looking at his phone, and he's floating in the pool, and he goes, "Oh, my new Ultima's here." And so he gets out of the pool. Right when he's getting out of the pool, the alligator was coming out to get him, and the captain said, "That's how you Heisman right there."
We're gonna have to joke with him.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to joke with him on Sunday, but 6 o'clock live on YouTube. Pat, I think we've gone 40 minutes, and the reason that we've gone double the time we normally do is I keep looking at the number of eyes that are watching this live, and it keeps going up. So we're approaching about a really good number right now. Is why we're continuing to talk. I think everyone's just so excited about this win. Yeah,
the high from this will last several days, I'm sure, especially with no game to be played until sometime in late December. It's going to be. Yes, I think this victory is going to be enjoyed a long time, and it should be. This team has worked hard. Its fan base has waited a long time. We've been around. We've been covering this program at the Osceola for 4 years. So yeah, it makes it a lot more fun to do this on Saturdays and Sundays.
Let's be honest. This is a fun team to watch play.
Yeah,
it's a fun team to watch play. I mean, the way the chunk plays on offense, the way the ball flies around, the way the defense is flying around. It's just a lot of fun to watch them play. And I know they want to rest. They need some time off, but I wish I could watch them again next week. I'm going to have to wait till the end of December, beginning of January to watch them play. And
you know what's crazy about – and this is really just getting off topic and going down a rabbit trail. But if this was a year of the 12-team playoff, and I don't know what all the stipulations are. I know it's the sixth highest ranked conference champions and 6th at large. But if we were talking about a 12-team playoff year, and we don't know how tomorrow's going to turn out. A lot of crazy, but you could make a statement that if there was or an argument that if there was, we'd be talking about Florida State being at least in that discussion. I mean, this has just been a wild, fun ride to take with this football team. I mean, it really has. I mean,
the way this team is playing now, in this moment in time, you'd have to say, I mean, if you go down the list, I mean, North Carolina was behind us already, right? Yeah. I mean, UCLA? They were behind us already too. So we
want Bama, Mark. Don't you see it on the screen? Bring them. Trust me, they would not. I mean, this would have been a ridiculous statement, right? About 6 weeks ago to say we want Bama. I promise you guys right now, I'm not saying Florida State would go and beat Bama. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a close game or that FSU doesn't have a shot either, right? Like, I mean,
we beat the team that beat Bama.
I mean, this team's not afraid, and they're going to line up. And if you think they'll look at the other side, Norvell isn't afraid of Saban. Like, it would just be if it happens, if somehow, some way, FSU's playing Bama. I don't think it's as ridiculous. That's been the theme tonight, right? Ridiculous statements that we made all season long.
Yeah.
So what bowl game do you guys think FSU realistically could go to? Is it Gator Bowl? Is that – I know their representatives have been around, Pat, for a couple of games now.
Yeah, I listen, we had Kurt Weiler, our senior writer, on Seminole Sidelines on Sunday, and he's going to come in and do a spot with us this Sunday and talk a little bit more about – he's kind of our bowl expert, for lack of a better term. But listen, I've heard Holiday, I've heard Cheez-It, I've heard Gator. Obviously, there's some rumors out there about the Orange Bowl if Clemson were to end up in the college football playoff. So you better pull for Clemson the next 2 games they got against South Carolina and North Carolina, if that's going to be the case, because I do think that's the linchpin that gets Florida State to a bowl like the Orange Bowl or Cotton Bowl. But certainly the last one I heard was Alamo Bowl. But listen, I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be Duke's Mayo where they go play a 7-5, 6-6 kind of team. And hey, by the way, guys, the win the night guaranteed Florida a non-winning regular season. So that's also icing on top of the cake there. But I think I think it's going to be a bowl in Florida. I'll put it this way: a bowl in Florida, Texas, or California. How's that sound?
All sounds good to me.
They do, man. Oh, guys, football is fun again. How about it?
Yeah, listen. I had no idea that you don't know how you're going to feel about any one team, especially doing this now for 4 years. And listen, it's, as an alumni, if you take my professional hat off as a Florida State alum and a guy who has a connection to the program, both past and present. Listen, this has just been by far my favorite year with the Osceola, and I think it's been my favorite year since I've been back in Tallahassee, and that includes the 2013, which is the year I moved back to Tallahassee. Of course, I had not followed the program for several years at that time because I was in college football myself. But yeah, listen, you throw away the Osceola hat. This has been a tremendous year, a fun year, both professionally working with you guys here at the Osceola. Mark and I have talked about this many times on. I don't know if any of you listen to Seminole Sidelines, our Osceola tailgate. Mark and I have been doing Seminole Sidelines for 4 years. And there were Sundays where we would call each other and say, can you believe we've got to do this again? Can you believe we've got to talk about another Florida State loss? Can you believe we've got to talk about this football team? Because there was not a whole lot of positive. I think our first year, Mark, was Willie's last year. I mean, we'd sit down on Sundays and be like, oh, God, how are we going to do an hour on this team? And listen, when you're on this side of the business, you need your team to be successful, right? And you're in the media. You want your team to win. It helps, like you said, look at the eyeballs we got tonight on this show. But yeah, so it's been I didn't know I was going to enjoy this team this much. I knew it was going to be a different team. The season's not over, thankfully. There's one more game to break down. There's one more opponent to break down. There's one more.
Pat, in that vein, I want to give a shout out to the seniors on this team. And we said goodbye to 18 of them today. Their last game at Doak. I mean, those guys, a lot of those guys, some of those guys were transfers, but a lot of those guys stuck it out.
Yeah.
And I think of the core of this team. I think of guys like Maurice Smith and Rob Scott and Pokey and, Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, the guys like that went through the tough times and stuck it out when they could have cut tail and run and go find
Leonard Warner.
Yeah.
Right? The guy that played multiple positions, moved all over the place, found a home at defensive end, has been productive. Dennis Briggs, another guy that could have.
Dennis Briggs, for sure. Because I'm sitting there watching Corey Durden play and going, that guy cut and run, right? For whatever reason. But, so for those guys sticking it out, I'm grateful to them and grateful and tickled to death that they're seeing success for what they did. And that's a lesson in life that will play for them their whole life. It's easy to go, when things don't go your way, to cut and run and go try, grass is always greener, all that stuff. But for those guys to stick it out and fight through it and lead this team to this result is so gratifying. That's one of the things I'm most proud of. As a player, as a senior, my senior year was the 12-1 dynasty starting team. I went through some 7-4s and 8-3s, leading up to that, and grateful to the seniors that led us up to that point. But to me, the most sense of pride I have is that my senior year was the year that kicked that off, right? Yeah. And so these guys will have that same sense of pride, for the rest of their lives. It's just something you can't quantify, and it's just something that you carry with you in everything that you do moving forward. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted a couple other guys you mentioned. I want to mention Mark, a guy like Dylan Givens, who has battled through injuries the last 2 years to play, and they get him through practice, they get him on the game field, and listen, that guy I think he's a 6-year senior this year, and he didn't have to come back, and then you're happy for guys like Keyshawn Helton, who had been through the hard times, and Amari Gaynor was honored at senior. Both those guys, all three of those guys were honored at senior night, and it would have been very easy to say, my eligibility's expired. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We haven't been to a bowl since I've been here. They didn't. To your point, they did not do that. So that's been 100%. Fun. That's been fun to see, and I agree. Listen, and Ara brings up a great point. This team does seem to by and large, be made up of really good kids. We don't read about any off-the-field issues at Florida State. And listen, most teams are full of mostly good kids, right? But this has been, there are a lot of personalities on this team that have made this team fun to watch.
100%.
It really has. And Jordan, the quarterback's one of them. I know, Mark, you're a big fan. That kid was told that he wasn't good enough to play quarterback a few years ago, right? There were people that even this year were doubting him, like, yeah, he's pretty good for a quarterback that's a scrambler. No. Jordan Travis proved to you. And by the way, if he decides to come back, I'm not saying that 100% that he's coming back, but he wasn't on the senior day list for
that matter.
I'm telling you, it'll be a special team next year if they can get it.
Well, on the subject of Jordan Travis, we got to give Mike Norvell credit on this too, because last year going into the year, right, we pick up Mackenzie Milton, thinking that he's because we don't know if Jordan's good enough, and Jordan showed flashes of his running. He's always had that running ability, but just being the quarterback, but going into this year, he didn't take another quarterback. He said, no, I'm all in on Jordan Travis. And that was a big decision, because we got 3 quarterbacks on the roster. And if he doesn't work out, then you got, two young guys. And for him not to take a quarterback in the transfer portal before the year, that was a big decision, because what he essentially was saying, Jordan, this is your team. I'm going with you, win or lose, and you're my guy. And so Mike Norvell gets a lot of credit, and Tony Tokarz gets a lot of credit for the development of Jordan Travis.
Well, and I'm going to say this because, listen, I think over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, there have been questions about Jordan, but I will say this for the Osceola as a whole, and I'll say it for me individually. Well, the one thing that we have talked about when it comes to Jordan is that even when he struggled early as a passer, and he's certainly gotten much better at that, but even when he was a young player, we said he was a warrior. And what do warriors do? They keep on fighting. And he was not having his best game with his arm tonight. And so what did he do? He turned to his other skill, which is running, and he battled. But you can say anything you want about Jordan Travis. But I think the one thing we all agree on when it comes to Jordan is he is a warrior. He has shown that for the last 3 years, and he just so happens to be playing the best football of his life.
Yeah, he's a competitor. He is a competitor of the first order, and he gets a lot of credit too, because again, I talked about it earlier, the sheer inventory of plays and the amount of stuff that he has to handle as a quarterback, and the way he does it, how smooth he is and do it, just all the ball handling and stuff. I mean, dude, I think about Trey Benson's touchdown, where he faked the jet sweep and then pitches that option ball, right? How many people would have been crying about that if that pitch went awry, right? Yeah. So nobody's talking about that now, right? LSU, right. We pitched the ball, dropped the pitch. Everybody, why are you pitching? Why are you pitching? Well, dude, we faked the jet sweep and pitched the speed option out to Trey Benson. It was a perfect pitch, just executing things like that. And the moving people around. I mean, how many times do you see him? No, stand over here. No, over here. Changing. I know he's changing plays, especially runs at the line of scrimmage. Just all that stuff that he has to process just speaks to his work ethic. Speaks to his, he's putting in the time to study. He's putting in time to perfect his craft, right? So obviously, I can't say enough good things about the guy. I'm glad he's wearing an arrow on the side of his helmet. That's for sure.
Listen, and as we've said, the story of the 2022 football season, if we were to NFL Films, would be putting the fear back in the spear of the 2022 Florida State football team. And I think that's
that.
What's that?
You better patent that.
I know they're probably already going to use that. I'm sure my brother's already gone over there and said something about that. But listen, they're probably going to kick us out of his press box. The only bad part about doing a live show tonight is we have an hour to do our work, and then we got to get out of here so they can go home. And we are at 53 minutes. But listen, we have to save some of our stuff for Sundays.
Please look at the note I just saw on Twitter. That just sent me to another planet. I just want you guys to understand.
Wow.
2022 SEC wins.
What happened?
2022 SEC wins. Mike Norvell 2, Jimbo Fisher 1.
Well, sometimes it pays to coach at Florida State. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right, everybody. I think that's a good show for today. About an hour of it. Pat, Seminole Sidelines should be a lot of fun with Charlie Ward on Sunday. Fans, please send your questions. Join us. Ask questions to a former Heisman Trophy winner, and then we'll have a full breakdown of the season. not just to this game and where Florida State goes, because it'll be about a month between now and the next time we see those Seminoles again, which is a good thing. It means good things have happened this year. Pat, good job, buddy, from you. Appreciate your coverage from the stadium. Mark, keep it real. Keep it 100 as you always do. Go get a cigar. I need to go get a margarita down here in Cancun and celebrate. And it's our final night at the Hard Rock, so I'm about to go enjoy that one.
Boys, enjoy, and everybody listening, enjoy the post-game festivities. Party responsibly. And all right, just so you know, Mark we always give him the honor of signing us off any show because he's got the blood, sweat, and tears out here on this field. So, Mark, sign us off as always, baby.
Give it to us, Mark.
Go Noles, state champs, baby.
All right. Thank you guys for watching.